Welcome to Love Tips and Velvet Lips. I am Marla Renee Stewart, here to help you out all in things love and intimacy and sex, of course. Today, we are talking about olfactory and gustatory seduction and what that looks like and how you can achieve those things. But before we get to that, I just would love to know if you have any questions for me. You can feel free to drop the questions into the comment section, or you can submit them anonymously at qrco.de/lovetipsama. And I'm happy to answer them there. If you have not gotten your erotic activity bucket list, please make sure you do that. And you can just go to velvetlips.kitkit.com/VL bucket list. Okay. If you haven't downloaded my free class around this subject, please make sure you do that. You can just go to velvetlipsexed.com/shop. This month of April, we've been talking all about the seduction learning styles, what that looks like visually. The first week we talked about what that looks like visually. Second week we talked about what that looks like when it's auditory. And the third week we talked about the tactile seduction. And last week, of course, I was at the amazing not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I was at the amazing Kink Fest in Portland, Oregon, hanging out there doing the SDS healing space, as well as coordinating their DEI idea efforts. So super, that was amazing, amazing experience. I love Kink Fest, really, really fun. So we didn't have it last week, but which is great because we can have this conversation this week, right? So as y'all know, I am here live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, as well as on Instagram. So thank you all for joining me. If you're thinking about getting the latest and greatest and want to know more, you can always visit pillar.io/velvetlipsexed. That's sex without the E. And I'll be happy to get that. You can check out all the latest things that are happening for me, around education and just what you need, y'all, what you need. So when it comes to gustatory seduction, we have to think about oral hygiene, right? Super, super important because this is touch by taste. And if somebody can taste the inside of your mouth, or if they are tasting the inside of your mouth via kissing and whatnot, it's so important that your oral hygiene stays up to date. There's a lot of infections that you can get when you do not do this. And so if someone is going down on you, for instance, you can actually cause an infection, right? You can somebody can get BV or maybe yeast infections when you do not have like a healthy mouth, especially if you're fluid bonded, right? But when it comes to seduction by taste, you want to think about preparing foods that they like, right? So foods that they enjoy, foods that are really, just super tasty to them. And then thinking about the different aphrodisiacs or adding variations to your food can heighten their libido and sexual functioning, right? So when we think about the different types of foods, we know some kinds of foods affect our moods, our energy levels, our sleep patterns, our heart health, right? Like all of these things are affected. And when they are affected, we have to understand that yes, it affects our bodies, but they also help with sexual desire and response, right? When we're feeling our healthiest, that's when we can really thrive, right? When it comes to our sexuality. So super, super important. And then last but not least, thinking about playing with food with your lover, right? It doesn't have to be super kinky or anything like that. It's not, it doesn't have to be a wet, messy kink or splashing or anything like that. But thinking about how you're playing with food with your lover. So whether that's feeding them or thinking about it could be anything from, uh, yeah, feeding them their favorite foods to desserts or anything like that, right? So just really invoking a lot of play in your seduction will get you somewhere, right? Because again, remember, variety and unpredictability are the things that make magic happen. Long-term sustainability when it comes to your sexual health and your sexuality, right? All right. Um, Before we get to olfactory seduction, I did have a question that came into me. And so I did want to answer it because I felt it was important to talk about it, right? And the question was, would I, Marla Renee Stewart, have sex with an autistic virgin? And the question, when I got this question, it really had me thinking because I think some people misunderstand when I talk about being a sexologist or a sexual strategist, what that means, or when I say, hey, I engage in somatic body work. I think people really kind of struggle to understand what that really means. And so I, had to tell this person, hey, no, I would not because you aren't a person that, wouldn't or shouldn't or couldn't have it. But I am not a surrogate, right? I'm not a sexual surrogate. But if you Google, right, sexual surrogacy in my area or a sexual surrogate near me, you might be able to find the answers that you need. When it comes to sexual surrogacy, it's such a gift, right? Like I think people who do this kind of work there's such talents, right? And even sex doulas, sexual surrogacy, even if you're going through sexual partner therapy, there are ways to get your needs met in general, right? So super, super important that you understand that, hey, even though I don't provide that kind of service, there are people in your area that do. And so if you're looking to go that route, that's something that you can do without necessarily, I guess, sort of getting in the realms of the legalities and principles around in your, wherever you're geographically located, right? So again, think about all the different kinds of resources. And there's lots of different types of jobs out there when it comes to sexuality. So, from people who do products to people who do research like I do, to people who are educators like me or a coach, something along those lines. There's all sorts of different realms that you can get into in this industry. So if that is something that you want to go for, maybe going about finding someone who does full service sex work or sexual surrogacy or a sex doula. And probably sex doula would probably be the best person for you, I would say, just in general, because when it comes to that, when you think about a doula, right? A doula is a person who ushers someone into their sexuality. And so that might be a way that you want to go. So you can actually just Google, right, sex doula near me, and hopefully that will, hopefully you can get the, results and answers that you need from that particular situation. So again, hope you get what you need, and thank you for the wonderful question. And yeah, good stuff, right? All right, so y'all, we talked about visual seduction, auditory, and tactile seduction earlier this month. We're talking about gustatory and olfactory seduction. I just talked about gustatory seduction. So now it's all about olfactory seduction. So if you don't know what olfactory seduction is, it is seduction by smell, right? So we have to understand smell is biological, right? When someone stinks to us, it's not going to be a good fit. One of the reasons why I think app dating is fine. I think you can find your person. I know plenty of people who have found their people via the apps. One thing I struggle with, though, particularly is thinking about how you can smell someone, right? You can't really smell them through the app. And I think smelling someone is super, super important. We have to understand someone shouldn't stink to you. If they stink to you, they're going to keep stinking. Yes, it might be something in their diet, but honestly, it could be just about anything. And so it's super, super important that if you want someone to be in your life for quite a long time, it's going to be important that they should not stink to you. Okay. They could stink to somebody else, but if you like their, grossest, foulest smell or their sweat smell, it's probably that's probably a good fit, right? So thinking about those things, I think, are important to recognize around olfactory seduction, because smelling good and having those smells are important. You could pump your pheromones up with some action, right? And so that is how we subconsciously attract people. And you can do this through hugs. So, affection, masturbation, intimacy, any kind of affection is going to help muster up some of those pheromones, right? And last but not least, we have to understand that smells induce memories. So you want to create good ones. You want to create good memories because you want to associate them with those particular smells, right? So you can do that by cooking for them, right? Cooking their favorite mood or their favorite food, or cooking them to get them into the mood. Or light scented candles or incense, something that really is a pleasure for them to experience. And then, of course, body scents, right? Body scents are a way to induce memories. And if you I have a friend who, had a husband who would constantly, be farting like right before sex, or like right as like they're getting in the mood. And farts, sometimes they smell and sometimes they don't. Regardless, those smells are going to induce memories. So it's sort of like you smell a thing or somebody does something that is unattractive. That's really going to turn someone off. So it's really, really important that you're able to actually turn someone on by inducing those body scent smells. That smell good. That smell good and proper, right? I would say limit the amount of gas that you are letting go of when you are engaging in any kind of, seduction or foreplay, right? So, um, all right. So that is what we have here today, y'all. So gustatory and olfactory seduction. Check out my blog. I'll be coming out with that. I'll be talking about the same subject in the middle of the week, right? Hump day is always the day that you'll get the my weekly newsletter. So please make sure you check that out. Do 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 do. I think that's it for uh, for today. But again, you can always contact me with questions. I will happily get you those answers. And just to let you know, come May, our prices are going to go up for SDS. And if you're not familiar with Sex Down South, please make sure you check us out at sexdownsouth.com. You can use my code MarlaSDS to get 20% off your registration. And here's the thing. We are doing Spiritual Awakening. It's going to be a great conference. And tickets go up every single month. So we have, tiered ticket pricing. So please make sure you get your tickets before that happens. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. I hope you all had an amazing weekend and that you have an amazing week. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my weekly newsletter, please make sure you check that out. You can just go to velvetlips.kit.com/subscribe and enter it there. So enter your email and I will be getting those. Save my website as a safe sender so you actually get the emails and it will be all good. All right. So thank you all so much for joining me here today. Hope you have an amazing week and we'll see you back here next Monday. All right. See you later. Bye bye.